Hello and welcome back to another episode of RE Radar. Once again, I'm your host and realtor, Nathan Matheson. And check the calendar. What day is it? It's the start of a new month. So, you know what that means. It is time to break down what happened in the Seattle real estate market last month, September. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Like I said, my name is Nathan Matheson. I'm your host and realtor. And what RE Radar is it's a podcast all about education of real estate in terms of helping anyone understand real estate a little more, whether you're a home buyer, home seller, a current homeowner, a future hopeful home buyer. This podcast is meant to help educate you and help arm you and equip you with the knowledge that will best help you succeed down the road in your real estate endeavors. So open up those ears and buckle up because it's go time. And starting right off, we'll get into interest rates as those obviously can affect the market and what takes place. So, what did September bring interest rate wise? Well, it did bring the first Fed rate cut of 2025. Now, mortgage rates, as I've discussed previously, aren't tied directly to the Fed rate. That's a common misconception. But they definitely do react to what the Fed does. So, what actually happened in September with the mortgage rates? Well, mortgage rates did drop. Now, the low for the mortgage rates was actually seen prior to the Fed cutting their rate. The week leading up to the Fed's announcement, mortgage rates could be seen around 6.2%, the lowest that they'd been in around a year. Now, after the Fed cut rates, the mortgage rate ticked back up, landing around 6.30 to 6.4%, where they still sit today. So, why would mortgage rates go up after the Fed cut their rate? And that is because this rate cut, it wasn't a shock, it wasn't a surprise. Everybody had seen it coming. It was kind of a expectation that they were going to cut the rate. So what happened was mortgage rates began reacting to it previously. They started dropping earlier and earlier. As in August, the rate was around 6.7% for a mortgage rate. Now, in anticipation, it then dropped. So by the time the Fed made the official announcement, everyone already knew what was going to happen. So mortgage rates over the past month had been dropping lower and lower. And when the rate did get cut, it turned out that mortgage rates had dropped a little too low, so they corrected upwards slightly, which is something that commonly will happen after a Fed announcement. People expect always a Fed announces a cut, mortgage rates will keep going down. Well, last September when the Fed announced a cut, mortgage rates ticked up. This time when the Fed announced a cut, mortgage rates ticked up slightly. So let's now get into kind of the prices and what actually happened in the home market. Price wise, both residential and condos in Seattle saw declines in September. The median sold price for residential homes dropped from 985,000 in August to 955,000 in September. Condos took an even steeper dip from 582,000 median sold price to 521,000 median sold price. Now, before I give some analysis on why I think that might be, let's just bring in some more data to give us a bigger picture. So looking at inventory and new listings, some of my favorite data points right here, we finally saw a jump in new listings again. This is the first increase since May. After May, June, July, August, it all dropped in terms of how many new listings were coming until September. New listings went from 985 in August up to 1,662 in September. Now, this is for residential and condo combined. Total home sales also took a nice jump for the first time since July, and that is from 2,336 in August up to 2,546 homes for sale at the end of September. Pending sales jumped as well. At the end of August, it was 692. End of September, 835 pending sales. So inventory went up and buyer activity went up too. Seems like a good thing for the real estate market here in Seattle to see. So what does this mean though? And for September, September is really a transition month, I feel. It's between summer and fall. It's the last stretch of consistent sunny weather here in Seattle. And that naturally creates a sense of urgency. Sellers, what do they want? Well, They want to get their home on the market before the gray skies roll in and cloud up pictures and just make the home have a little less appeal than in the sun. And what do buyers want? Well, they want to get settled into that brand new home of theirs before the rainy season starts and they have to stay inside all the time. They want to be inside in that nice new home. Now, that I feel can help explain the spike in both new listings and pending sales. But while activity picked up, prices and total sales volume actually dropped. Total closed sales volume fell from about 809 million in August to 632 million in September. Now, keep in mind though, a little bit of background on this, I think, is as many of those September closings actually went under contract in August, as it's very typical for a home to take 30 days after getting under contract to officially close before it gets recorded. So a lot of homes that sold in September actually went on the market or at least got into mutual acceptance back in August. So that data is a little less of the up to the date info of what's taking place in September and a little more about August. My takeaway here of this data is if you focus on the rise in new listings and pending sales, I would call September a really strong and productive month for Seattle real estate. We also saw the lowest mortgage rates we've had in a while, and that also likely encouraged these buyers who had been waiting for months to finally jump in. And even from my own experience, I started seeing this as open houses that I hosted in September absolutely back up that data, as I was consistently seeing double digit traffic numbers through the weekends, and around a third to nearly half of the people coming through when I'd ask the question on how long have you guys been looking to buy a new home for, their answer would be a couple of weeks or maybe a month. And compare that to what I was seeing a year ago, less people coming through open houses. And every time I would ask that question, these people were saying, oh, it's been, 6 months, 9 months, oh, forever. Like back then, these people were seemingly looking to buy a home for months and months and months, and they were never able to find that home that fit what they were looking for. Fast forward today, with all this new inventory, buyers back out there, they're really looking, and seemingly these buyers have been getting into homes. So now what we're seeing is buyers that get out there into the home market, they're finding homes they like and they're closing on these transactions sooner and sooner versus being stuck out there waiting and waiting for that home that they actually like and that they can actually afford to show up. So it had been taking buyers a lot longer, I feel, to find that home versus in today's market right now, a buyer is able to get out there, and with the new inventory coming in, they're able to see more homes, they're able to see a wider spread of homes, and perhaps they can find a home they like more and fall in love with and can close on that home sooner than what we had been seeing previously. So this can allow for that market to just keep turning around and the system to just keep flowing, and is just definitely a good sign, I would say, for the strength of this real estate market. And I really think the reason for that is because of this Seattle real estate market reaching a much more comfortable level and a comfortable place, especially for those buyers. Because what helps buyers the most? Two things I say: interest rates and inventory. Now, a buyer can't control either of those things, but those two factors can completely shape their experience when they go out searching for a new home. As when rates are high and inventory is low, buyers are going to spend months and months trying to find that right home that they can afford. But when rates dip and there are more options out there on the market, more inventory, it is easier and faster to find a place they love. And that is just what keeps the whole real estate system moving. And when the system's plugging away and churning like it's supposed to be, everything's smoother, and it's just a much more enjoyable experience and an enjoyable process for people. The more buyers that can get from just starting to look to closing in 2 to 3 months instead of that 8 to 12 months that it seemingly had been taking for so many people over the last year or two, the healthier this market becomes. Now, for sellers, that's also good news, as it means buyers are active again. And they are, though, sharp and rate conscious, clearly with interest rates and mortgage rates. Homes that show well, though, and are priced correctly, they are moving quickly. Well, overpriced ones or homes that are in a slightly less desirable area, they're sitting. They're sitting. But remember, sellers, the good news is the buyers are out there. So you got a buyer for your home, just a matter of getting it marketed right and getting them to see it and getting them to experience what you loved about it. Now, that momentum I feel is healthier than it has been in months for the Seattle real estate market. So, wrapping up in short, just September 2025, it was a much needed step forward. Rates eased, listing data rose, buyers re entered the market. All of that sets us up for a healthier fall and winter real estate market here in Seattle compared to what we saw last year. Now, that is all the time I have for you today. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. I'm Nathan Matheson. Have a good one. Peace.